Sagittarius, welcome to your 2026 horoscope. My name is Adina. I'm an intuitive astrologer, and in this video, we will be going over all of the major transits you will be navigating for the year ahead. We will cover all of the Mercury retrogrades, the eclipses, the nodes entering Leo and Aquarius, Saturn entering Aries, Neptune entering Aries, and that energy in conjunction. We will go over the Jupiter and Leo energy, Uranus entering Gemini, and the Venus retrograde at the end of the year. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you align with my energy. Now let's just hop right into it. So, our 2026 Mercury retrogrades are all in water signs this year. So, these Mercury retrogrades are working with us on a very deep emotional, psychological, and spiritual level. So, keep that in mind as we move through the year. Now, our first Mercury retrograde is going to be in Pisces. Mercury will station retrograde February 25th or 26th, depending on your time zone, at 22 degrees of Pisces, and station direct March 20th at 8 degrees of Pisces. Our second Mercury retrograde of the year is in Cancer. From June 29th to July 23rd, Mercury will station retrograde at 26 degrees of Cancer and station direct at 16 degrees of Cancer. And then our final Mercury retrograde of the year is in Scorpio. Mercury will station retrograde October 24th and then station direct November 13th and move from Scorpio, station retrograde at 20 degrees of Scorpio and then station direct at 5 degrees of Scorpio. Now, I also want you to check your own personal birth chart to see if you have any personal planets or points around any of the degree points we are discussing in this forecast. If so, then you know that the energy we're discussing is working with you on a more personal level. So, for example, if you have any personal planets or points within Pisces, Pisces, Cancer, or Scorpio, these degrees, that Mercury retrograde is going to work with you a lot more intense. So just always keep that in mind. So let's see how this is showing up for you, Sagittarius. So the first Mercury retrograde we're having this year is in your fourth house of home, family, property, and real estate. So come February and March, there may be something that you are rethinking around your home, around your family dynamics. If you are moving or experiencing, issues around the home or renovating around the home, there may be something you're having to reevaluate in that area. The fourth house also rules your private life, what you do after you go home after work. The 10th house is your career and what you are putting out in the world. And the fourth house represents what you are doing in private, what you do after you close the doors. And so there may be something that you're reevaluating. In that area of life with that Mercury retrograde. And now the second Mercury retrograde of the year is in Cancer in your eighth house. And the eighth house rules your partner's finances. Money coming in from outside resources like taxes, inheritance, debt, um, loans, any financial companies that you're connected to, that is all in the eighth house. The eighth house also rules, did I say debt? Okay. I can't remember I said debt. The eighth house also is extremely psychological. It can represent our deepest fears. It can represent really deep psychological transformation, the occult. It is also very psychic, very intuitive house. So at the time of this Mercury retrograde, there may be something that you're rethinking or reevaluating with those themes and topics. I would say this could be like, let's say your partner's finances, this could show up in a way of this is something your partner has to address. This may be something that is showing up around your partner's finances, that you and maybe your partner's having to navigate. This could be something showing up around a bill or a loan that you're having to address or that you're having to reevaluate. I wouldn't really recommend applying for any financing at this time or loans because you really shouldn't sign any important documents during a Mercury retrograde to begin with because there's usually something that you're missing or that is unclear that can then cause delays or challenge, kind of down the road. So if you can, I would hold off. If this is applicable to you, I would hold off on signing any documents or like financial commitments at this time, especially too because you have it in that eighth house. Um, But also too, this could be something you're having to address around your like your psychologically, like something on a deep psychological level as well. Now, that third and final Mercury retrograde of the year is in Scorpio, which is in your 12th house. The 12th house is one of the hidden houses. This, the energy in the 12th house is all about everything that's hidden. Everything goes to the 12th house to hide people, places, things. The 12th house can roll places like hospitals, asylums, retreat centers, jails, prisons. The 12th house can also represent karma, past lives. It is deeply intuitive, deeply spiritual. It can rule our dreams, our sleeping patterns are represented in that 12th house. And so you may find during the Mercury retrograde, there could be issues or something you're addressing around sleeping or maybe having a hard time sleeping. This can also be a time where you just want to pull away from the world. The 12th house rules isolation, what you're doing behind the scenes. This may be a time where you're just kind of wanting to do more behind the scenes. And actually, at the time of this Mercury retrograde, which we're going to get into later on in this forecast, there's a lot more other really intense energy kind of going on as well. We will have a Venus retrograde around the same time as well in Scorpio. But we'll get into that later on. Just keep that in mind. Okay, so let's get into our 2026 eclipse dates. So our first eclipse of the year is February 17th, and that will be our solar eclipse in Aquarius at 28 degrees. This eclipse we really want to pay attention to. This is going to be the first of the eclipses initiating us into this set of eclipses and this eclipse cycle in Leo and Aquarius. We've had the nodes in Virgo and Pisces, and for those of you who are not aware, the nodes represent where we're having the eclipses. And so since January of 2025, we've had the South Node in Virgo and the North Node in Pisces, really shifting and changing these areas of our life up in massive karmic ways. The nodes are very karmic, the eclipses are very karmic, and sometimes the changes feel like they're completely out of your control. And so this year, we're going to feel that shift from the Virgo Pisces area of our life to the Leo Aquarius area of our life, because in July, the nodes shift into Leo and Aquarius. So this is going to be the first eclipse in that axis, showing us what those changes can possibly be. Now, our second eclipse is going to be March 3rd, and that will be our total lunar eclipse in Virgo at 12 degrees. So, whatever changes you've been navigating really since the end of 2024 in this area of life, there's just kind of more to that story showing up at this time. Our second set of eclipses are in August, and we will get our total solar eclipse in Leo at 20 degrees, August 12th. So, again, this will be the first eclipse in Leo, initiating us into that change. So, we want to pay attention a few weeks before, a few weeks after, what's showing up. And then we will have August 28th, our final eclipse in Pisces at 4 degrees. And this is not going to be the final eclipse in the Pisces Virgo axis, but it will be the final eclipse in Pisces. We will get one more eclipse in Virgo coming into 2027. So let's take a look at this. So the nodes enter Leo and Aquarius July 26th and will 2026 and will be there till March 26, 2028. So the changes that the nodes bring, it's usually a 2-year process. And one thing I've noticed with tracking the nodes and the changes and the eclipses for years now is that this is basically a story that is playing out. So you will notice that whatever this energy is changing for you, whatever upheaval is being activated, every time we have an eclipse, there's more to that story. There's another chapter, there's another change, or there's something else happening, kind of shifting you in that direction. So just pay attention to that. Now you've had the nodes in your fourth and 10th house. So you had, they still have it at the time of me recording, the North Node in your fourth house in Pisces, and the South Node has been transiting your 10th house in Virgo. So you've already been going through a lot of changes when it has to do with your career, your public reputation, home, family, property, real estate, what you do behind the scenes. The North Node represents something new. The North Node is a new direction that we are being pulled towards, and the South Node is something we're moving away from, something that's no longer in alignment, or the South Node can also represent something coming back from the past. So in this case for you, this could show up as maybe an old job coming back around that you decide you want to connect with or maybe go for. This could be also you letting go of a job, letting go of a certain position within your career. But this would have either way caused, a lot of changes around career and public reputation and home. And even too, I've seen with like the North Node in the fourth house, family dynamics changing because that fourth house rules family. It could be a new family member coming in or a new direction that around family dynamics. This could represent a move. This could represent just changes within the home. Now the nodes are going to enter Leo and Aquarius, and this is your third and your ninth house. And so the third house represents your community, your neighbors, your neighborhood. Also, your siblings and cousins are in the third house. Communication, reading, speaking, writing. It's all associated with that third house, your mindset. And so the North Node being in Aquarius is going to bring some type of new direction when it has to do with those themes and topics. The third house also rules vehicles and local travel. So all of those themes and topics are up for review and up for change. The ninth house rules long distance travel, higher philosophy, higher knowing, higher knowledge, wisdom. Also like college, university, going back to school. That's all represented in the ninth house. Astrology is in the ninth house. Your belief systems are in the ninth house. Religion and your religious beliefs are in the ninth house. The ninth house is represents spirituality and spiritual, like the 12th house is spiritual as well, but spirituality is also represented in the ninth too. So there is changes going on with your beliefs because it's that south node. There may be something that's no longer in alignment with you. Um, or maybe something coming back around from childhood or from your past. Either way, these areas of life are going through massive changes. Okay, so let's get into the Saturn Neptune in Aries energy. So Saturn is going to be in Aries from February 13th, 2026 to April 13th, 2028. And Neptune will be in Aries. Don't pay attention to this. This is a typo. Neptune will be in Aries from January 26th, 2026 to 2038, 2039. Neptune will dip its toes in Taurus around 2038 and then move back into Aries and then fully make that ingress in 2039. So, this is taking place in your fifth house of children, creativity, what you are passionate about, your hobbies, your interests, romance and romantic connections. This doesn't necessarily represent like one on one relationships because that's represented in the seventh house, but romance and your approach to romance is in the fifth. So, dating can be represented in the fifth. Like, you know what I mean? Like, not necessarily those solid one on one connections, but dating or um, how you express romance is represented in that fifth. So having Saturn and Neptune in the fifth is definitely going to create a lot of change. There is a conjunction right at that 0 degree point. So there is some type of a reset for all of us in some way. For some of you, this could look like having children, changes around children. This could look like a completely new direction when it has to do with creative pursuits, what you are passionate about, what you find fun in. That's all going to change. Saturn rules maturity, responsibility, discipline, limitation, challenge, delays. So when Saturn's transiting certain areas of our chart, we can experience either more responsibility in that area of life or having to mature more. And that's why, like, for some of you, like, I would say some of you, you definitely are having children, but it's not going to be all of you. But there may be more responsibility around children you already have. That can definitely be a thing. there can be more having to be more responsible around you want to think too addiction, like addiction is in the 12th house, but addiction can also show up in the fifth because the fifth house is what we love, what we enjoy doing. So like gambling can be in the fifth. Let's just say some of you gamble too much. Saturn's going to come in and check you because Saturn's all about maturity, responsibility, and brings life lessons. And so in certain situations where we're not being responsible, Saturn does teach us those hard life lessons. And so with Saturn transits, things can become challenging, in those areas. And I'm not saying all you Sag risings are like that's not, I'm using that as an example, but I'm just saying that Saturn does want us to be responsible. So in areas of life where we're not being that responsible, where we're slacking or cutting corners, Saturn's definitely going to put us in check. And again, Saturn can just create more responsibility in those areas of life or delays. Neptune tends to make things very confusing. Neptune is that planet that dissolves boundaries. Saturn is the planet of boundaries. So I don't know if you've noticed, I know I have, but with Neptune transiting Pisces the last 14 years, I definitely noticed Saturn being in Pisces the last couple of years. Saturn really brought a lot to the surface that Neptune was dissolving, blurring. What we were seeing with rose-colored glasses, Saturn really brought to our awareness and made a lot of things known. And so with this transit, instead of Saturn coming in at the end of the transit, Saturn is going to be um, ingressing at the beginning. And so Saturn's going to help us lay the groundwork for the next decade because Saturn won't be able to come back around at the end of the transit and clean things up like he just did. So we want to use the Saturnian energy while we have it to establish some solid boundaries in those areas of life. So yeah, just keep that in mind. And then Saturn is at fall in Aries. So Saturn doesn't like to be in Aries. Aries is a very impatient, impulsive energy. Aries very much is about act first, think later. Saturn, that's opposite Saturn. Saturn's responsible. Saturn is all about hard work, dedication, and doing things, right. Think first. Don't act first, think later. Like it's kind of opposite Aries. And so that's why Saturn has a bit of a challenge being in Aries. So Saturn being the ruler of your second house at fall in your fifth in Aries, that can also create some challenge or delays in around your second house themes and topics, which are your money, your finances and material possessions, your personal values. That is all in that second house. So just be mindful of that as well. That the ruler of your second at fall in the fifth can definitely bring some challenge or delay around your finances. And I would say that there's already kind of a lot that you're going through around finances just because you've got so much change that has happened in the fourth and 10th house axis with the nodes. Um, yeah, so yeah, you just want to be mindful of that there can just be, something coming up, or even again, Saturn brings delay. So if there's anything that you're trying to get going around money or finances, it could just take a little bit longer. Or maybe Saturn's having you mature and be more responsible around your money and your finances. And then we want to remember that the fifth is opposite the 11th. So there is an opposition kind of formed here. So Saturn and Neptune are opposing those 11th house themes. And the 11th house represents your friends, your social circles, groups, associations that you are connected to, social media. Just keep that in mind. Not that it's like well, I don't want to say it's not a huge influence, but it can be, yes, because if you have personal planets or points in that 11th house, Saturn and Neptune are opposing them, which, yes, can create some balance that is required. It can create challenge. Things may be showing up for you that you are having to address because they need to be balanced out. They need to be reworked. They need to be reevaluated. Now let's get into Uranus in Gemini. Uranus enters Gemini April 25th, 2026, and will be there until May 2033. So you have Gemini in your seventh house of relationships and one-on-one connections. This can be really interesting. Having Uranus in the seventh house can be a mixed bag. Like I even talked about the Gemini risings for this because it's still that first and seventh house axis. So even Gemini rising that have Uranus in the first is going to change how they approach relationships. And so Sagittarius, you may find that having Uranus transiting your seventh house Um, you're wanting to do things differently. I mean, this can definitely show up in ways of doing things very unconventionally, having a lot of different partners, not wanting to settle down, but then it can also show up as like just um, completely changing, like meeting a lot of unique people. That can definitely be a thing with Uranus in the seventh. Meeting a lot of different kinds of people. Maybe like if you're traveling, especially with the nodes being in the seventh and the third house, you may be doing a lot of travel, although I wouldn't recommend that at the end of this year with all that intense energy in the ninth, which we're going to get into. But this can be a lot of changes within your one-on-one relationships. And the seventh house also rules business partnerships. So this energy may not even show up in relationship. Well, the thing with these outer planets is that there's such long transits that they show up in many forms. Like this can show up in changing your business partnerships or who you are connected to, but also how you approach relationships and the type of people that you want to connect with. Like it's going to do a lot. One thing I would say, because it's there for 8 years, right? It's an 8 year transit. But one thing I'm going to say is Gemini is a very quick energy. It's a very curious energy, but it's a very quick energy and it's an air sign. And so Uranus being in Gemini, we have to be careful of not making quick decisions or acting too quickly. Uranus rules disruption and chaos and doing things very suddenly or things happening very suddenly out of the blue. So we just want to be careful of just not doing anything too quick. Like grounding during this transit is going to be essential just to help not fly out into the ethers in a sense. Um, but this can be like you just want to be careful that you're not making too many not even impulsive decisions. Um Changing your mind too quickly when it has to do with relationships. Um yeah, like sit with things first. Try not to um make too quick decisions, if you get what I'm saying. And the truth is you may not even understand what I'm saying at this time, but down the road you may be like, oh, I remember when I watched that video and she said this was going to happen 5 years from now, because this is an 8 year transit. So we just want to like slow down, don't make any quick decisions around relationships or things like that. But generally, this can just have us meeting people that are unique and different, wanting to connect with unique and different people, maybe traveling and meeting a lot of unique and different people during this transit. This can definitely bring changes within our relationship and relationship dynamics, who we want to connect to, what we want within relationships. Um, and yeah, so also too, I would say, um, wherever you have your Mercury placement will also help you get a better feel for what this energy is going to bring and also other ways this energy can play out. Okay, so Jupiter in Leo. Jupiter is going to enter Leo June 30th, 2026, and will be there until July 26th, 2027. You have Leo in the ninth house. So, again, I did kind of mention travel because there's a lot going on in that ninth house. Remember, you're going to have the South Node here come July. So, there's going to be a lot of changes when it has to do with travel. Now, one thing I will say, like, whatever that South Node is activating for you in this area of life, Jupiter is going to expand that. Yes, Jupiter is the great benefic, the planet of luck and abundance, but Jupiter is the planet of expansion and can sometimes bring us too much of what we don't want. So we just have to be mindful of that when we're dealing with these Jupiter transits. Um, so this is a time where maybe you're wanting to travel more, maybe what is this, going back to school. Jupiter can bring a lot of opportunities in this area of life. Also your belief systems, like Jupiter is the natural ruler of the ninth house, so this is a good placement for Jupiter. Jupiter does well in the ninth house, because Jupiter naturally rules, belief systems and religion and religious beliefs and to some elements like spirituality as well. And so there can just be a lot of changes in that area, which you're already going to go through because of the nodes. You may decide there may be some opportunities for you to take a course or learn something different, learn something new, maybe dive deep into astrology, change your religious beliefs, or move in a new direction when it has to do with your religious beliefs, something around travel. So yes, that is it's not that challenging. However, we're going to get into something at the end of the year that can be a little bit challenging, which is our Venus retrograde. So once we get to the end of the year, we're going to have Venus retrograde in Scorpio and Libra. Venus is going to station retrograde October 3rd and will be retrograde until November 13th, where she stations direct. Venus is going to station retrograde at 8 degrees of Scorpio and move back to 22 degrees of Libra. So Scorpio is in your 12th house. Venus rules your 11th house and your 6th house. Now, this is a very intense energy, and we are all going through this, not just you. I've talked to all the signs of I've really been, I've literally talked about this with all the signs that this is a very volatile energy. It will show up for all of us differently, but this is not a time you want to be out walking alone. This is not a happy Venus. Venus does not like to be in Scorpio. Venus is the ruler of Taurus, so she's far away from Scorpio. She's at fall in Scorpio. So not only is she in this environment that she's not comfortable in, that she can't express herself in, but we're going to have Pluto in Aquarius and Mars in Leo forming a T square to Venus. And both Mars and Pluto are the rulers of Scorpio. So she's in their sign, being squared by both of them. Deeply, deeply just not able to express herself and extremely uncomfortable. So this is just not a happy Venus. This is in your 12th house of isolation, escapism, things that are hidden, secrets, people, places that are hidden hospitals, asylums, retreat centers, karma, spirituality. And so there may be a lot around those themes and topics that are showing up at this time. But also, Venus is the ruler of your 11th house of friends and friendships and social groups, and the ruler of your 6th house of work, health, and daily routine and pets. So there may be something with those areas of life or those themes and topics that you are addressing at this time as well. Also, remember that at the same time, we have a Mercury retrograde going on. So we're reevaluating those areas of life. So there's quite a lot going on at the end of the year that's intense. Whenever we're dealing with Mars Pluto oppositions, this is a very volatile energy. This is where we can experience a lot of power and control dynamics, obsession, compulsion, manipulation. So if you're in a toxic relationship where those dynamics are possible, you just have to be careful at this time because it's not a nice energy. And so, yeah, it's going to show up for all of us differently. And some of us aren't really going to experience much, right? Like some of us will get through this transit with very to little limitation or challenge. And then some of us can experience a lot of limitation and challenge. So I have to tell everyone just so you can be aware, because when we are aware, we can navigate the energy a lot easier. Okay, Sagittarius. Well, I hope that this horoscope helps you navigate the energy for 2026. Thank you so much for joining me. Let me know in the comments below if you have any questions at all, and I will connect with you in the next one.